Okay, let's get started then. Time of everyone. I've started the recording just for everyone's information. Okay. Hi, all. Thanks for joining. This is Manish, as you all know. Um, I'm the Singapore Architect Group leader, doing these sessions regularly for Singapore. Just a bit of background about myself before we get started. I'm a Salesforce MVP and marketing champion. I've been leading this architect group. Prior to that, I was a developer group leader for almost 7 years now. Yeah, and I work as a delivery head and solution architect at CPR Vision. So I've been into worked on Sales Cloud. Currently, I'm into marketing clouds around 12 plus years in Salesforce technology. So a lot, I got a bit of experience there, definitely with some certifications. And I blog at SFDC Fanboy. That's my online nick. And I also teach some courses on Udemy just because people keep asking for some kind of training material, and also it's easier for me to just post it there and give references. So if anyone's looking for marketing cloud related ones also, yeah, there's Udemy to help you. So before I want to get into the topic, we should all take a moment to give respect to Gemma. Those who all do not know, she unfortunately, it has happened, I think, last week or prior to that. She's no more. Uh, uh, I'm losing out of words, but yeah, she has been a great personality in the Salesforce community, especially for architects like us and women in tech, those who couldn't just to do architect stuff, especially for ladies and the girls who couldn't do it. She was the one who pioneered in getting everything done for everyone, and that's how she started Ladies Be Architects. I'm sure Susanna is also knows a lot more than me about Gemma and how she's been successful in implementing all of this. Ladies Be Architect. I'm sure her legacy will continue with most of the people in Ladies Be Architect, and I'm sure everyone who is in Salesforce community, in the architect community at least, would have come across and would feel her presence felt in the future as well. So may her soul rest in peace. Just feel so, and hope we will find her again some in somehow in some other manner with to all of us. Yeah. Uh, with that, I'll give it to Susanna. She'll be talking about Gen AI, generative AI for architects. Anything you
Yes.
want to add, Susanna? I think before we get
Yeah.
into
Uh, yes.
it.
Thank you. So thank you so much, Manish, for inviting me, for everyone for attending, and for the lovely acknowledgement of Gemma. Gemma was a close friend of mine, and yeah, I think we're all feeling the loss right now. But what a great way to open the meeting and to sort of honor her memory. So thank you for doing that. And with that, we will take sort of a hard shift into our formal presentation, talking about Gen AI for architects. And I'll go ahead and if you could give me the ability to share my screen. There we go. Now I have it. We'll hop right in, and we have a nice, intimate group of folks here today, this evening. So feel free to type in the chat, if you have any comments or questions. Well, I know we have a dedicated portion for Q&A towards the end, so feel free to chime in your questions, and we'll be sure to get to them at the end. But to get started, yes, for those of you, well, I guess to get started, we'll do our lovely forward-looking statement. We are actually going to be talking about some forward-looking technology today because, as I think probably everyone on the call is aware, there is so much going on in the space of AI and generative AI in particular everywhere, and Salesforce is no exception. So we are going to talk about some forward-looking stuff. So I do want to just mention that, a lot of the things we're going to talk about are not currently available in the product today, but they're coming soon. So of course, make your purchasing decisions with that in mind. And now that that's out of the way, what I wanted to say is that for those of you who I haven't met yet online, maybe we haven't connected, or you might be wondering who am I joining this meeting at 7 p.m. My name is Susannah Plaisted. I am a lead evangelist in architect relations at Salesforce, and I'm based in the United States, on the eastern side of the United States, in a state called South Carolina. So kind of in like the countryside, if you will. And I've been with Salesforce for about 3 years, coming up on 3 years now. And before that, I was like Manish, I was an MVP. I was a member of the community for many, many years, and was a part of Ladies Be Architects. So for those of you who might be aware of that group, was deeply involved there, and I still continue to be involved. But my role at Salesforce is to make sure that architects have the tools that they need to be successful. My team works very deeply on the well-architected framework. We're the ones who created it and who sort of maintain it. So you'll see some of the architect's products that are related to generative AI and have some hooks into AI that we're going to talk about today, so that you know where you can get some of the great resources for architecture from Salesforce. And with that out of the way, I did want to just take a moment to, of course, thank you. Thank you all for, thank you, Manish, for your leadership of the group. Thank you all, though, for joining and attending. Like, you are what makes the architect community thrive and what makes them strong. It's through all of these amazing community groups and community events, user group meetings, online or in person. You are really what make the work that we all do at Salesforce possible and really fulfilling. So thank you for all that you do today, including showing up here this evening. And like I just said, it's because of all of you that the architect ecosystem is truly thriving. And we started out, for those of you who might be a little bit newer, back in 2017, there really was no architect persona at Salesforce that we talked about. Like, it was just admins and developers, and that was kind of it. But through community efforts, like the work, that I'm sure Manish was putting out on his blog, like the work that Gemma was doing with Ladies Be Architects, there was sort of a grassroots effort that came up. And because of that interest, because of the work that all of you did, the architect community is now represented at Salesforce by the fact that there is a job called Architect Evangelist, and there's amazing user groups like the one we're on today. There's actually more than 67 community groups for architects specifically. We have architects across more than 26 countries, and there's a community, that means folks who identify as architects, of nearly 240,000, which is just really, really incredible. So you are a part of this network of really smart, really dedicated architects, and just know that that's out there. Especially if, I know sometimes, like, I'm a remote worker, so sometimes it can feel like I'm a little bit of on an island on my own, especially with all this stuff moving really fast. It can be challenging, but definitely tap into this network. You have a lot of folks who are doing similar work to you that you can lean on. So I wanted to start there because it is it's a really crazy time right now in technology. Like, Manish said he's been working in Salesforce for 12 years. I've been working for about 11 years in the Salesforce space. And I have not seen a time like this in our working in technology, frankly, where things are moving so fast. I came about in this like cloud era. So when I started with Salesforce, and then we had, of course, the Salesforce One mobile app, which is a little bit of a disruption where we were all focusing on that. And social was a huge piece with all of our marketing applications and how do we work that into CRM. And then, in the recent years, there's all this, we all heard about this influx of data, right? Like, there was all the connected devices and IoT, and data is going to create this huge revolution in how we work. And then as of the last year, the main focus has been on both data, but also this new generative AI and just artificial intelligence in general, because of the market popularity, I think, in the more mainstreaming of generative AI through OpenAI's Chat GPT. That's really what moved the needle for everyone to be talking about it. And with this speed, there's a huge opportunity. So there's a huge opportunity for all of us, I think, working in the Salesforce community. There's a huge opportunity for our customers, meaning like the folks that we work for. So the folks who use Salesforce and employ us as architects. Leaders of these companies see this enormous opportunity for improvements in things like customer success. There's also going to be a bit of a change and I think opportunity in jobs, right? Folks are interested in these new AI skills that are frankly just emerging. And we're all just, I think if anyone puts on their resume, oh, I'm a generative AI expert, especially if they just started working with Gen AI when Salesforce started talking about it, probably not, none of us are experts. We're all learning together, but that there's going to be a time when these skills are really in demand. So it's worth learning about this stuff now. I won't read all of these, but there is going to be a transformation in the way that companies adopt AI by 2027. You can see that 3 out of 4 companies will adopt AI. That's a huge change. I think if we think about who adopted the, old school like opportunity scoring that has existed in Salesforce for a while, not a lot of companies, but there's like, it's again becoming mainstream. So there's this huge opportunity that's coming. But there's also, it's important, I think, to remind ourselves of where we are, because there's this huge opportunity. There is a lot of, there's folks talking about like there's going to be a loss of jobs. There's going to be, our democracies are going to crumble. There's like, some people are saying it's all good, it's all bad. There's a lot of buzz and a lot of, I think, confusion out there in what's happening with AI right now. So I think it's good to remind ourselves we're in the middle of an AI revolution. We started out in wave 1, which we were in prior to this year, all about predictive AI. So things I mentioned, opportunity scoring, like lead scoring. We used AI to generate something like, what is my lead conversion score, things like that, just to output like a number, output a score. Then in this year, in 2023, we entered the generative AI wave where, everyone started playing with tools like ChatGPT and DALL-E, all of these new tools that could use AI to generate brand new text or generate a brand new image or a video. And that's wave 2, where we're sort of solidly in right now. Wave 3, and we'll talk a little bit about wave 3 in this presentation, is a step beyond generative AI, and that's all about what we refer to as agents or autonomous AI. So this is more of a multi-purpose assistant that's not just, you're not going to a web app and typing in a question. This assistant is maybe embedded into Salesforce or embedded into a wearable device. And it's more multi-purpose. You can sort of ask it to help you with a variety of tasks. And then wave 4, and this is a wave that a lot of folks who are much smarter than me sort of debate, are we ever even going to get to wave 4? This artificial general intelligence, or AGI, as it's often referred to. And that's kind of up for debate. Like when we're going to get to AGI, are we ever going to get to AGI? That's like a hot topic. And that's really, AGI is the wave that people are like, really, we want to get our controls in place, make sure things are safe for if we ever reach this era of AGI, where there is a more sort of omnipresent AI that is truly can do like what a human can do things that aren't like really discrete business things, can just help us more generally and is more widely distributed. So that's the AGI piece that we're like quite far away from, frankly, right now. I mean, well, I shouldn't say, again, people smarter than me debate how far we are, but that's where people are like, oh, are robots gonna take our jobs? Like, well, that's more the wave 4 concerns than wave 2 where we are right now. Okay, so that's a grounding in where we are in this AI revolution. But it's important to remember that while we're sort of early on in this AI revolution, AI is not new, number one, and AI is not new to Salesforce. So Salesforce has been working on AI for a long time, for 10 years. So we actually founded our AI research team that creates their own models. We have a number of proprietary models that we've had, and we have now that we're using. CodeGen as an example. That's the model that we use to generate Apex code in our GPT for Developers product. But anyway, our AI research team, which works on more like theoretical, their thought leadership folks in the AI space, founded in 2014. We did a number of acquisitions that allowed us to sort of amp up our predictive AI capabilities with vision and language and bots and all of those things. And then in 2018, we launched the Office of Ethical and Humane Use. And this is a huge thing, I think, especially for our customers to understand. We've led with safety and trust first when it comes to AI for a long time now. And as you can see in 2013, we sort of like the graph goes like this, curves up, because that was really the wave of all this generative AI or GPT functionality. So you can see we have Sales GPT. We launched another proprietary Code T5 Plus LLM and Code TF. We have, and then lots of products. And we'll talk about some of these products around like Sales GPT, Service GPT, and what this looks like. But all in all, we have more than 200 AI research papers. We have more than 300 AI patents. So Salesforce, well, we're new to talking about generative AI so often, I'd say, this is not new to us. AI has been embedded in Salesforce for quite a while. And all of this said, so all of the opportunity, the revolution, the fact that we are not new to AI, this is all true, but there's also a bit of an AI trust gap that is like the elephant in the room, I think, that we all need to acknowledge, especially as architects. Folks want to use AI. You saw that metric around like 80% or something of companies or want to use AI, or 3 out of 4 are going to be using it by 2027. That's true, but to get there, we have to handle some of these concerns. There's what we refer to as a trust gap with concerns around things like privacy and protecting your data. Because once we share this information, where is it going to go? Who's going to store it? Is the model going to learn from it? We also worry about hallucinations. So with generative AI in particular, when the model, that no matter what model you're working with, when it doesn't know something, kind of like a human, instead of always saying like, I don't know, and just stopping, it will like try to answer. It will give you an answer, and it's not always obvious if it's a right answer or if it's a wrong answer. And that's called a hallucination, which is obviously problematic when it comes to using some of these AIs. And then we worry about how we're controlling our data. How do we make sure if there's like a GDPR request, how do we handle that within this new paradigm of neural networks? And of course, we worry about bias and toxicity, because how a large language model gets its first round of training done, essentially, its pre-training, is by ingesting large chunks of the web, of the internet. And we all know that everything on the internet is not free from bias or toxicity. So how do we make sure we're not amplifying those biases or toxic content? And as architects, we know that the gap doesn't just stop there. We have a lot of other things to think about, right? We have to think about things like, okay, well, how are these AI applications going to scale? And how are we going to handle compliance? How do we handle technical debt with AI? With things moving so fast, how do we make sure we don't deliver a solution that we're going to then need to totally reconfigure or re-architect, in 6 months? So all of these concerns are a lot to think about. There's a lot going on. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you are not the only one. But the good news is that there are guardrails in place. There's guidance for how you should think about implementing these new tools, and the guidance has been out for a little while. So you might have heard of well-architected. The well-architected framework is what you're looking at right now. It's essentially core values that can help guide your architectural thinking, and the core values are trusted, easy, and adaptable. And these principles can help you understand how to make sure that the AI that you are working with for your customers, or that you're trying to implement maybe for yourself, is trusted, because at the end of the day, you need a trusted AI. So we're going to start with our more deep conversation here in the area of trust. So at Dreamforce, we launched what we're referring to as a product, or product suite, essentially, the Einstein One platform. So you can see on the screen right here, sort of a architecture diagram of what we mean when you hear the Einstein One platform. So it's really this section in the middle that's sort of blown out. That is Data Cloud is an essential part of the Einstein One platform. And it's this Einstein bit, which is all of our artificial intelligent applications and architecture. And then the key thing is that it's all integrated and it's all built upon the existing Salesforce metadata framework. It integrates with all of our CRM apps and fits nicely into, this what we still sometimes refer to as the customer 360 with App Exchange, and of course our other tools like MuleSoft and Slack. So the Einstein One platform is this trusted AI platform that's a part of the Salesforce ecosystem. And because it's on Salesforce, it comes with a lot of stuff baked in, right? We have Flow, we have Apex, all of this like low code and no code capabilities that sort of come along when we think about the Einstein One platform. And all of the AI tools that exist for Salesforce and the architecture itself adhere to these tenets that our Office of Ethical and Humane Use that I mentioned, that was formed in 2018. This is what they've defined as our tenets for trusted, ethical, and humane AI. So we say that your data is not our product. You control access to your data. We prioritize accurate, verifiable results. Our product policies protect human rights. We advance responsible AI globally, and transparency builds trust. So this is our sort of philosophy on how Salesforce approaches AI. And I think what's really important, and which has been true forever, is your data is not our product. So you still have control and access to your data. That hasn't changed, even with all these new fancy applications and new products that we're rolling out. We are very aware that your data is your data. So that's, I think, an important thing to remember. And speaking of trust, if you watched any of Dreamforce online, or if you happen to be there, you've probably heard about the Einstein Trust Layer. This is one of the unique Salesforce pieces that is the value add for using the Einstein One platform and all of our tools versus just enrolling your own integration with ChatGPT or another LLM. For example, we have what's called the Einstein Trust Layer. It's essentially like a microservice that sits between our CRM applications and the models that may exist, may be hosted on Salesforce or may be hosted outside of the trust layer or the trust boundary. So what I'll point out here is important, and we'll come back to this too in a little bit, but we essentially have applications that will help you create some prompts, and prompts are sort of the outbound request that goes to the large language model. But prompts, if you just typed them into the ChatGPT window, for example, all the data that you're putting in there goes to OpenAI in that example. So we have a series of steps that actually protects your data so that we are not retaining it outside of the CRM applications, and so that an external partner like OpenAI is also not retaining it. So we have secure data retrieval of your information. We ground what's called grounding a prompt, which is essentially giving it more context. And instead of just saying, write me an email for a prospect, it's like, write me an email for this prospect. And by the way, here's all of our touch points we've had for the last 6 months, and here's their browsing history. So it's like giving that extra context. And then we mask the data. So before we do anything with it, even if we're just sending it to our internal models, we mask the data so that we're not sharing any personal identifiable information. Then we send it to the model, where the model does not retain. So OpenAI, for example, if you're using OpenAI with our AI applications, does not retain any of the data that we send it. So that's different than what would happen if you just used OpenAI directly, because we have a shared trust agreement with them, so they're not retaining any of our data. After that, the model sends us back our generation, right? That response, maybe it's an email that got crafted, for example. We scan it for toxicity to make sure that your customers aren't seeing like toxic responses that are offensive or profane or anything like that. And then of course we log everything that happens, so you can report on it later, and then we surface it back to the CRM application. So that's the trust layer. And so as we're talking about trust, these are all the steps that are happening sort of under the hood that come when you use AI on Salesforce versus if you were to use AI just on your own. So you can imagine it's really important when you're working with business data versus just your own, like, write me a recipe for what I have in my fridge, OpenAI. Like, we don't really care if we're sharing those ingredients, but our customer data we want to protect, definitely. Okay, so we talked about trust, which is the first proponent of well architected, which is also the first value that we have at Salesforce, especially when it comes to AI. But next, we want to talk about how you are going to actually harness all of your data for generative AI, which is not an easy task, but you want it to be easy for your customers, because if someone has to like code their own or roll their own large language model and train it and like do all this stuff to have it work well with your data, that's $1 million operation, like $1 million plus. So we want it to be easy, we want it to be fast. So let's look at how the Einstein 1 platform is going to help us do that. Okay, so as we all know, we've heard this a million times before, right? That all enterprises, their data doesn't just exist in Salesforce. Like that wouldn't that be nice if all of all the things we had to do were in one application? But we all know that that's not true, especially in large companies. 71% of company applications are disconnected. So you have data in Salesforce and maybe in an on-premise system, maybe in Google Cloud, maybe somewhere else. So this is a challenge when we need all this data to come together to do things like ground the prompt that we just looked at in the Einstein trust layer diagram. Like, how are we going to retrieve all that information in real time so that we can get a better response from our large language model? Well, an important part, as I sort of already mentioned, an important part of the Einstein 1 platform is Data Cloud. So Data Cloud's been around for a little while now, but it's an incredibly important of our generative AI offering, because it's going to help us connect our data, even if data doesn't exist in core CRM, like in what we traditionally consider Salesforce. Data Cloud can help us bring our data and connect it from across lots of applications. And again, it's natively built inside the Salesforce ecosystem. It integrates with our metadata, which means that we can do cool things like build flows on it. We can use it in Prompt Builder. And it's really going to be a game changer when it comes to the quality of how we can leverage, or the quality of generative AI, and how we can leverage all of our data to improve that quality. So if you aren't familiar, some of you, I'm sure a lot of you have already seen this, but at a very high level, I said it's going to bring together all your data. How does it do that? Data Cloud is a data lakehouse architecture, and it's a different type of database. So we have the transactional database. That's the one we know and love that, used to be like Oracle, now it's a little different, but it's a relational database that stores our data, great at doing like CRUD operations. It's why we can like easily edit records and share them and all of that great stuff. But for this petabyte scale data from across all different applications that might be structured and unstructured, we need a different type of database. And that's what Data Cloud is. And it has essentially hooks into other applications. So from what looks like the Salesforce UI, or is the UI, but it's not the core application, you can ingest data from different Salesforce applications, from other data lakes or data warehouses like Databricks or Snowflake, or from anywhere through using MuleSoft APIs and SDKs. You can pull in this data through something called a data stream. You can prepare and map it to Salesforce metadata so that you can then use it alongside CRM data, alongside other data, and use it, like in our example, to help ground our prompt with a single customer picture, a single customer identity. So that's really the magic of, I shouldn't say magic, that's really how Data Cloud works, sort of under the hood. And if you want to go even further under the hood, because it isn't magic, it is very smart architecture and engineering. This is a diagram that I created called a Data Cloud Technical Capability Map. And this sort of shows you the different capabilities. So we said, we handle lots of big data, we do big data processing. Well, how do we do that? You can see all of the applications and features that we use and what they're built upon. So you can see a lot of this is built on Amazon. So this is a great reference, I think, for architects especially, that are like, okay, I've seen the nice looking slide of that, you ingest data and you can do all these things, but how is it built? How does it really work? This is a good resource to start to wrap your head around it. That's how I started to understand it. Okay. So that's how, and just to like recap, that all of this like smart engineering makes for our users and makes for us like a very point and click, nice UI, easy way to ingest and transform and map data, which is like a huge, if you were to build this maybe in using a middleware to try and like retrieve the data and then put it in staging tables and transform it, would be like a huge effort. So Data Cloud is taking a lot of the heavy lifting and making this easy for us to leverage data with AI. Okay, and the third prong, if we're mapping this all to our well-architected principles, we know a trusted AI. We've made it easy to handle our large-scale data with Data Cloud. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to note that everyone is going to need to adapt to change, including us as architects, because things, as we said from the outset, things are moving so quickly. We're all going to need to adapt to change. So I wanted to give you, in this final sort of chapter of our time together, I wanted to give you a look into some of the things that are coming, some of the things that are changing about the platform, and how you can start to shift your mindset to think about these new changes. So the first one that you will start to hear about, you might have started to hear about it already, but you're going to hear more about it, I promise you, is the Einstein 1 Copilot. So Copilot is our sort of first step into, it's not an autonomous agent, but it is an assistant. So it's like our first step into the wave 3 of AI that we started looking at. This more, not just a generative AI sort of one application. This is more of a multi-purpose application that is going to be like docked essentially in Salesforce across different applications, and you can ask it to help you with anything, any variety of tasks, and it'll say, oh, I either don't have a skill. You will train it through using something called skills. It might not have a skill for it, and it'll tell you, but it will also help sort of orchestrate the business processes that you need to do, from generating a promotion. It could create a segment and then, do a couple of steps essentially. So it's not just like a one-shot activity. It's going to do a series of things and help you orchestrate your work. So this is like a new paradigm. This is pretty different, but it's really exciting. Also, there's going to be, so when we talk about Copilot, Copilot for Sales is scheduled to pilot in February of 24. So that's not too far away. But we also have some AI capabilities that are already GA. So things like Sales GPT, which includes things like a call summary and also an email generation. So you can generate an email for your sales prospects, for example. So that's available today. Then Einstein for Service, again, Copilot, because Copilot is this like multi-purpose thing, right? It'll pilot in Q1 of 24, but we also have some really cool, I think Service is the most, I think like maybe the most primed use case for all of this. And we have, I think some of our coolest early applications are around service. So we have service intelligence that actually just went GA, and also field service GPT, service GPT, which includes things like service replies. So you're going to be able to have Einstein actually recommend like how you should respond to a chat. So you don't need to like come up with the message on the fly. It's going to suggest messages for you that you can then tweak and send to the person you're chatting with in like omni-channel use cases. And then platform services. What's huge in what like you're going to hear so much about is Prompt Builder or Prompt Studio. We keep changing the name. And this is going to be cool. This is how you're going to actually be able to customize prompts to be used in other AI applications across the platform. And prompt building and prompt engineering are going to be some of those skills that our Salesforce folks, that you as architects are going to be like leading your team on how to think about building prompts. So definitely there's some good trailhead modules, I think, around prompting. And then just in general, this concept of prompt engineering is going to become very popular. Again, we're trying to take some of the guesswork out of it by having like a point and click builder, but definitely an area to like read up on. Einstein for Developers. This is something that is an open beta today. So you can actually go to the Einstein for Developers, like in Salesforce Help, and see how you can join the open beta. This is really cool. This is, if you haven't seen it, it is generating Apex code for you using natural language. So again, there are, you know, the learning process is iterative. So you wouldn't necessarily want to take your like junior developer who doesn't know any best practices and be like, here, just go use this and you'll be fine. Like you as folks who are more seasoned, who have done, you know, lots of coding, who know the best practices, this is going to be a tool that you can use to like help. Maybe it'll help you write some code comments for code you've already written. You can play around with it and see what it outputs, and maybe it's a good starting spot for you. This will improve over time, but it's definitely something to take a look at and see how you can incorporate into your existing flow of work. And then this was just, I wanted to highlight like 3 common areas. We have GPT coming for like commerce and marketing, sort of across the product portfolio. There are areas for all of this coming. And the one place that you can go to look for all of the product enhancements is actually the Architect website, architect.salesforce.com. We have a product called the Roadmap Explorer that will show you what's coming across all of our products. So definitely take a look at that. We've talked about this, but just to recap, you know, all of this is changing. Things are changing fast. We're all going to need to adapt. And that is why we structured our Einstein 1 architecture to support, to be open, is how we usually talk about it. And we have the Einstein trust layer that we went sort of deep on already. But as you saw, there's this trust layer, and then it goes out to an external LLM, but it can be a lot of different types of models. It could be our model. So like for GPT for developers, we use our code gen model. If you work on a team that already has a large language model or a predictive model, you can use our applications with that. You can connect to it through the Einstein trust layer. Or if you want to use another model, if you want to use OpenAI, Anthropic, Cohere, our trust layer allows us to essentially make connections to any model. So that is incredibly important when we think about adapting to change, because who knows, like the way things are changing, like, you know, in, where are we now, November? In January, there might be this whole disruption and there might be like this new breed of models. And with the Salesforce architecture, you can leverage the best of, you know, what's available because of the way it's structured with the Einstein trust layer. And on top of all of this is our co-pilots and the like apps that we just looked at. So that's the architecture. It's good to just keep that in mind. Okay. If you want to go even deeper on how everything is built, this is another like nerdy document diagram that shows like from a technical perspective how the Einstein platform is constructed. So, you see the data cloud presence down here. We have our data lakehouse, our transactional database, this Einstein trust layer that we talked about, and how we support different models and the apps that exist sort of lay on the top. But you can get this diagram for yourself. You can use it in Lucidchart or just download the image if you want by scanning the QR code. So that is there for you, or it's available on the Architect website as well, architect.salesforce.com. If you just go to our diagram section and search for Einstein, it'll come up as well. Okay, so yes, just the final point on adaptability. AI is going to change how it's not just a new feature that we're going to need to learn how to implement. It's really going to change the way we build, I think, in the long term. So it's something we're all going to need to learn how to adapt to, and we're all learning as we go, right? We're going to be, instead of building with like clicks, like clicking through a flow all the time, like we have a product that's in, I think it's in pilot, with that's flow GPT, which again, you can type into a box how you want a flow to be built, and it'll build the flow. And again, it's not gonna be perfect, right? You're not gonna just do it and then deploy it to production. But instead of doing all the clicks, all the manual clicks to get started, you're gonna ask it to give you a starting point. And instead of coding every single thing by hand, you're going to be able to leverage a tool like develop GPT for developers and get a start, get like sort of boilerplate code. And then again, so this is not changed. So we're going to be remaining to be data driven. So we used to be data driven, right? We would look at data and then be like, oh, okay, I see the trend. Let me go like build this thing. It was like comparing what you're doing to data. But in the future, everything is going to be grounded by data. So we're going to need to have data integrated and driving our work. So this is all maybe a little theoretical, but really, really exciting. But at the end of the day, just to wrap up, um, you don't have to do this alone either, through like physically alone. You have that community of 240,000 architects, but also you can use Well Architected. We already have a lot of resources on the Architect site where Well Architected is hosted. Well Architected has been your guide for use and adoption, for your for self-learning, for all of these things, and it's going to continue to be your guide. And to get started with building AI projects in a way that is well architected, and to give you some tools that you can use to roll out AI, we have this AI project resource gallery that's available on our website. So definitely encourage you to check this out as a starting spot to fuel your AI journey. And with that, I'd just like to say thank you. Thanks so much for spending this evening with this group.
Thanks a lot, Susanna. It was nice. Good to know the background, the architecture of Einstein One platform and everything. Thanks.
Of course.
Any questions from anyone? Let's see. I think the most important one for everyone, I think, is uh, like people when they try to implement Einstein, the first concern would be on the data being shared across. I think Susanna clearly confirmed and explained how trusted it is. There's no retention of data anywhere, which is great. Great to hear. So we can just, because especially with OpenAI, that's a major concern. And also we have seen instances where uh, data or even code being leaked uh, externally, which has very serious impact. So with Salesforce, I think that trusted layer is a huge factor in for everyone to consider. And I think everyone will be looking forward to Q1 next year, Q1 24. I think most of them will be available for us to try and see, get our hands on and try. Uh, nice.
Definitely. Yeah, there'll be a lot coming. It's going to be, and I think the interesting thing too is like we didn't never really announce this, but all of these, both Data Cloud and the Einstein One platform, we're releasing new stuff like every month. Like
Oh,
it's sort of the paradigm of 3 releases a year, like related to AI is changing. Like y'all are, we're releasing stuff quarterly, but also like incrementally. So there's a lot of stuff coming.
mm-hmm. Nice, yeah. And I'd also recommend everyone to try at least whatever is currently available, like the Einstein for developers, where you can generate Apex codes that Susanna highlighted. I think we should all try and see what's there currently first, and also look forward to the new features that will soon come up. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining. Then I think that's all, Susanna. Thanks a lot. Have a good
Awesome.
day today.
Thank you. Thank you,
And
everyone. And yep, I think I saw one question. This is being recorded, and I'm sure you'll share
yes, yes.
Manish with the group.
Yep,
Awesome.
yep. I will share. I'll share with everyone. Yes.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.